Okay, so I wanted to talk about short grain rice, also known as sushi rice. Listen, take the word sushi out of it when you're preparing it, okay? Because there's so many traditions, there's so many techniques that, you know, that you can learn, but I treat it as a short grain rice. So this is actually Calrose rice, okay? So I'm gonna show you a really bulletproof way on how I like to cook it. But now let me show you this recipe I have, and this is, I never stray away from this. I pretty much learned this from working at a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and I love this technique because I never forget it and I always go back to it. There's no fuss, it's super easy, and let's get into it. Okay. First things first, I usually never measure rice, but for the sake of this video, we will.
I want to bite that.
Okay, don't worry, we can have a bite. Give me a second. So I'm gonna say we're gonna do 2 cups, or sorry, let's call it a cup of rice. Actually, I'm gonna do 2 cups. So here I have a all-clad sauce pot. So go ahead, pour it in there. Okay, 1.
I will do 2. Do we need 2 scoops?
Yeah, I'm gonna make it 2 cups. Okay, ready, son? Go ahead.
Cups.
Yeah. You can make them even. I'm just gonna wing it, but here we go. All right. So one of the important things is cold water. Add a little bit of water, and then this is a key. Basically, don't add too much water. We're gonna wash the rice, but you only want just a little bit of water in there, just so the rice can kind of bounce against each other. I don't know if you can see that, but you'll see. Don't add too much water to the rice. Just to get it a nice washed.
Don't let mommy see that.
So you literally want to get in there and like
if you do that and turn it into almond milk or something.
Yeah, right. Look how much. You see how much starch comes off of that?
Yeah.
So
because it makes milk. We're
gonna do that process a couple of times. Wash the rice. This is a key step. But I like to go fast because you don't want to hydrate it too much. So go ahead, get a piece of salmon. All right. So I washed with just a little bit of water, and now I'm gonna just pretty much hit it up a couple times. Okay, until the water is clear. This is a key part. Do not skip this part. Take the extra time to make sure that the rice is washed properly, especially the short grain. This is a Calrose. In California, we have the luxury of, you know, just having like awesome, beautiful product. I mean, I would much rather be anywhere else in California than right now with, you know, COVID and all the restrictions, but at the same time, I have to appreciate the bounty land that we have here. All right, cool. So I think we're there. All right, so you can see the water's almost running clear. It's still starchy, but it's almost running clear. What I'm gonna do is drain all of this off. And then listen, this is the important part. So, water, literally just to cover, okay? So, I would say about half the finger, just to cover, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this hydrate. We're gonna let this rice hydrate for about 10 minutes. Okay, let me make sure I'm in frame.
Okay.
Boom, 10 minutes, okay?
10 minutes.
Setting a timer right now. I don't do a timer, but for the sake of this video, we're gonna do a timer. So, 10 minutes. Boom, this is way, I'll be back. Okay, we are back in the game. So if you look, these, hey, these rice granules are hydrated, okay? So it's been 10 minutes, and now what we're gonna do is the final step.
Because Because you.
Okay. Now this is the important part. Okay, don't mess this up. You're gonna strain off this water. Huh? Okay. Then basically from here, we are gonna go 2 cups of rice. I hit it up with, it'll be even 2 cups of water. 1. Boom. Okay? There you go. Alright, and then if you put your finger in there, you will see it'll come up to that first line. Okay, then from there, what I like to do is turn on the light. I'm gonna hit a little bit of salt, okay? And then we're gonna turn this on high heat, okay? And then from there, it gets really easy. So basically, once it starts boiling, you're gonna turn the heat down, cook for 10 minutes, okay? And then once, yeah, that's okay. Once it's cooked for 10 minutes, you're gonna pull it off, let it rest for 10 minutes. So basically, it's a 30-minute process. Once we get here, that's where we're gonna start the timer. Okay, so I turn the heat down just a little bit, keep the simmer going. Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, so after it comes out, this is key. This is key. Oh, and by the way, I put a lid on it. But basically what you're gonna do is cover it like so. We won't let the rice rest. So you don't have to do this, I'm just covering it so for sure I have a tight seal. So no heat, okay? It's resting, 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes and basically now this is the key. Actually, prop this up a little bit so you can see. What I like to do is just get my spatula a little bit wet. And then you're gonna wanna, put this out right into a mixing bowl. You can use a half sheet pan. You know, if you were making sushi rice, you could use a wooden bowl with a wooden paddle. And then very quickly, I'm just gonna spread the rice, okay, across the bowl, just like this. Okay, and then like if rice starts sticking, just what I'd like to do is just wet my spatula so it kind of just gives me a little bit more leeway. All right, now the thing is you want to get this cooled down to room temperature as fast as possible. So one thing I like to do is I'll fan it like this with something, whatever you have, a lid. You could use a regular fan, whatever you got. But the goal is to get this cooled down as fast as possible to room temperature. But you know, obviously, like I've put it out, I've put a fan on it, I've put it in the fridge before, but like you don't want to put something like this steaming into your fridge. It'll bring down the temperature, or bring up the temperature too high. So I think what's important is like, don't overthink it. Like, you know, you need to cook rice about 50 to 100 times, and then you come up with your own stuff, man. There's so many people out there like rice Nazis, where they have a certain way, certain technique, and they measure by the gram, and like I totally get it, but at the end of the day, like it depends on what I'm doing it for. Like if I'm making rice at my house, I'm not gonna sit here and go through measuring and all that, but at the same time, I'm also a trained chef, so I kind of know how to fix something if it's wrong. But I think for the home cook, like, you're just gonna have to cook it multiple times, and you learn from your mistakes, and you just go from there, right? There's no rhyme or reason. There's so many different ways to cook rice, and the reason why I say it like that is because you know, when I went to Masa, and I asked how they cook the sushi rice, and they went through the process of where they get it, how they source it, and at the time I forgot how old I was. I was like in my late 20s, but you know, it was New York City, the most expensive restaurant in New York City, and it's crazy because then I go to, you know, I live in Los Angeles, so I go to a bunch of sushi places, and I'm asking them how they cook their rice. You know, hey, where do you get your rice from? And like, there's so many different ways to do it. Like, you just have to kind of create your own. And that's why I tell people, like, yes, is this considered sushi rice? Yes, but I don't call it sushi rice, because once you put that name on it, it's like a hidden treasure. So you know, I just call it what it is, Cal Rose short grain rice, because and that's the rice I like to eat, and that's the rice I'm cooking, and this is how I figured out I like to cook it. Now, the reason why I'm doing this and I'm letting it just kind of air dry is because if you leave that in the pot, it's going to continue to cook, and then what happens is the rice granules stick to each other. I don't know if that makes sense, but they stick to each other, so it almost comes out like a rice, like sticky rice, as opposed to you know, where the individual granules are separate. So about, you know, a couple minutes in, what I'll do is I'll just give it a little rotation with the spatula, and then you know, from there it's like you're good to go, man. I just portion it, and you know, this is what I'll eat for the next 2 to 3 days. My family also enjoys this rice too, so that's how I make short grain rice. It is what it is. Let's go. But hey, listen, if you were gonna make sushi rice, I highly suggest this vinegar right here. It's readily available. It's already seasoned. Now, in the restaurant, we add sugar and we add salt. But what I'm saying is, for the home cook, you know, your best bet is just to go with something like this. Basically, the difference between this and regular rice wine vinegar is this has the addition of sugar and salt. And, you know, it just makes it simpler. But I'm not making sushi rice, so this is regular white rice that I'm making to just eat with meals and whatever. So look, we're about halfway there. This is, you know, this is pretty much it. Nothing crazy. Now I'm just gonna give it a little mixy mix, right? So it's not steaming so much anymore, but you know, this rice is magical. And I love doing it this way. And trust me, I've you know, done this multiple times. So I feel really confident in cooking short grain rice. Now, you know, for what I'm doing is I'm gonna just store this in the fridge, right? But like, you know, just to give you an example, like what you're looking for is that, like, okay, this rice is still warm, but like, obviously I got my hand wet. You always want to, if you're working with rice, you just want to get a little bit of water on your hands, and like, you see how it's, camera stands can't hold up, but look at this. You see how like nice and it's still together, but it's individual. I don't know how that explains it right, but like I know this rice is good. It just needs to cool down a little bit more, but it's nice and fluffy. And most importantly, when you go to eat it, you can taste the individual grains in your mouth, and you know it's undercooked if the rice gets stuck in your tooth. So nothing worse than overcooked rice, and that's why I like to that's why I like to hydrate it first. I learned this from a restaurant, like I said, a restaurant that I worked at in San Francisco, Seisan, they call it magic rice, but the technique is awesome, because you know what, you end up with a perfect product. You literally end up with a perfect product. So that's my rice. You know, tip for the day, but you can do whatever you want. Like, honestly, there's no judgment. Don't let anybody steer you away from making rice. I've made rice. I've eaten rice every day for the last freaking 12 to 15. I mean, not that long, but I think what I'm saying is I see so many people afraid to cook rice, and I totally get it. You know, you get frowned upon for using a rice cooker. You get frowned upon from using, you know, for using a blah, 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 and blah, blah, and like, you know, oh my God, don't add warm water, don't do this, you know. Dude, whatever. Like, who cares? You know, it's kind of like a potato to me, you know. There's 30,000 ways you can cook potato. It's the same thing as a starch, but like, or a grain, sorry. But, It's the same thing but a grain, but you know, listen, don't overcomplicate it. Just put the rice on the fucking stove and cook it, right? The reason why in restaurants we use a rice cooker is because it's super easy. You set it and forget it, right? Like, I love a rice cooker. I don't have one here at my house, but I used to have one. And if I had that, I would make that. But I use the stovetop today. But I'm not opposed to a rice cooker. It makes it so easy. Like, what people don't understand is, like, you know, you have to do what works for you, right? And for me, I'm not going to waste my time making, you know, sushi rice or short grain rice or jasmine rice or basmati rice. I've cooked them all, and trust me, I know. And I've fucked up a lot, too, when I was younger. And the biggest mistake that you can make, and I learned this the hard way, is if you accidentally short the water, the best way to come back from that is to finish steaming it, okay? Don't add a cup more water and continue cooking it. It will get too mushy. So what I've realized is it's better to just steam the rest, all right? Or if, like, you see the top is too crunchy, like, or the top is undercooked, dude, just scrape the top off. Scrape the top off and move on with your life. Trust me. If you put too much water, right? Okay, no problem. Guess what? Start over. You can cool that rice down and then press it into a pan or something. And then what you do is you just cut it into cakes, and you can make fried rice cakes. It's super easy. Or you can make arroz con leche. You can make a dessert out of it. There's so much things you can do, but don't be scared to cook rice. All right, I'm out. That's enough about rice.